All right, Scream 6 is coming up fast. So we find that to be as good of an excuse as ever to go back and rewatch all the Scream movies. Because Renee, I know that you live and breathe those movies.
Literally just finished a rewatch.
Of all of them?
Oh, yeah. Well, we were like, let's talk about Scream, just the first one. So I watched it, and then it was like, oh, we're going to record in a few days. And then that just kind of stretched out to a few more days. And I was like, I mean, not that I waited that long. Like by the next day, I had watched all of them already. I did like a whole binge. I can't not. They're so good.
Of course you did. Well, you're the polar opposite of me because I don't remember anything outside of the first one. So a lot of these are going to be like the first time watches for me.
That's exciting, though. I wish I could go back and watch these all for the first time. Just such a magical time. I mean, I'll stand by it. I think this is the most consistently good franchise for all of horror because every movie, every installment has been quality. The third one is definitely not as good as all the others, in my opinion, but I think it's pretty rare. Like, I mean, how many of the Friday the 13th movies are even that good? Maybe one, maybe two.
I don't even think I've seen more than 3 of those.
Exactly. There's only a couple good Halloweens. There's only a couple good Nightmare on Elm Streets. They all just kind of get bullshit. But Scream, because Ghostface can be fucking anyone. So it's a great formula. It's meta. It talks about whatever's going on in horror, and there's always new trends. I'm excited for the 6th one because this year has been quite a banger for horror.
Definitely has. Well, and if anyone else listening is a Scream fan, make sure to subscribe and follow along on this journey of ours as we approach Scream 6. But let's talk about the one that started it all.
Mm-hmm.
Scream, 1996. This movie was a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
Budget of 14 million, grossed over 170 million worldwide. Like, it's no surprise that they greenlit a sequel like for the following year.
Yeah, it came out less than a year later. And what's interesting is that it was like back in the old days where like it opened and it was a pretty quiet opening. And then word of mouth of the people who did see it got around and they started telling people, and then it just started raking in more money and it just kept growing. So it was a really cool like word of mouth, like, you got to go see this movie. Very similar to, I feel like recently, like Barbarian, right? Everyone was like, go see Barbarian. Don't look up anything. You got to be surprised. This was very much that movie, and it really reinvigorated horror at that time when it had become just sequels and shit for a while,
Well, and then the director was Wes Craven, who
icon.
He was the king at this point.
He still is in our hearts.
Still is. Written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote several of the other Screams, and also I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yep, Dawson's Creek also. He is great. And the most recent, Sick, that just came out on Peacock.
Which we both thoroughly enjoyed.
Yep. I mean, Kevin Williamson's brilliant, I think. I really love anything he does. It's very, very funny and also just really effective.
This was an interesting rewatch for me because I know that you have, years of nostalgia built into this. I don't really so much. This movie has really, really good things, and then some other things that I just don't really think have really aged very well. I think almost all of the really good things are with Kevin Williamson.
Mm-hmm.
Like the opening scene is one of the best of all time. Like,
it's maybe the best, I think, personally.
I mean, the fact that they used Drew Barrymore for all the marketing, that she dies in the first 5 minutes.
They pull a Psycho, but within 5 minutes. And it's like they marketed her as being the star of the movie. It's genius. And she was like, I want to do this because no one will know, because then no one's safe for the rest of the movie. And that was just a genius decision. I will say, like, personally, I think Wes Craven is also extremely responsible. I think it was a real partnership. I love that they worked on the rest of the movies together. That's why Scream 3 is not as great, though, is because it's a different writer.
But yeah, like that opening scene, the phone call is so effective. I when I was watching that, though, I was like, this wouldn't happen nowadays because people just don't answer the phone.
That's literally what happens in like in the newest Scream 5, where Jenna Ortega's like not answering it's like the home phone, and she's like, someone's calling the like landline, and the other chick's like, you have a landline? It's like, ew. But it's like, yeah, no one would fucking answer that, let alone like you just block everything. So I think that what's cool about Scream is that while that's the concept of the original, they've really evolved it throughout the movies where it
Mhm.
does work and they bring it into more of a modern setting because nobody answers any fucking phone calls anymore. You couldn't really call people. It's very difficult to get them on the phone.
It'd be like a over text message now,
Yeah,
which
there is
that
that too.
there is.
Oh yeah, there's also some of the stuff where it's like they're trying to break in and they're like arming the system on their phone and then it's like doors locked, doors unlocked. So the other person's like the killer is like unlocking it on their app. I'm like, what the fuck? This is cool. So they really like amped it up and kept it modern, which is really cool. But I think just the effectiveness of back then, a phone call, a stranger, the voice is perfect because it's kind of sexy, but also really creepy.
Mhm.
And I love that Roger Jackson has continued to voice all of them. Obviously, I know they probably have the technology now to do it without him, but I think that he is one of the biggest parts of like why the Ghostface voice is so iconic.
It's pretty iconic. Yeah, like there was several scenes that I thought were so good at just being effective and being scary. Like the opening scene is obviously great. I thought the bathroom scene after
Mhm.
everything happens and she goes into the bathroom and then she hears something and then just like slowly his feet come down.
Yep.
Like I thought that was really great. And then also at the end when she's in the car and he's trying to stab her, and then the back trunk opens up and it's
Like
super
really quiet.
quiet.
Yeah. So
And
good.
I was just like,
There's
oh, that was great.
there's a lot of really effective moments and then there's also a lot of like that like high school kind of like it's not necessarily like a soap opera but very like you're like oh yeah I see why like this guy also did Dawson's Creek like and
Hmm.
that's kind of one of the things is that like the relationships and all of that and like the characters can sometimes feel a little soap opera but that's a kind of part of it and it's all like satirizing like the shit that it was like making fun of right
Yeah.
and that's what I love about these movies is like they really started the trend of being a fucking self-aware horror movie. Nobody had really done that before. This is the first movie that you're like, oh, those characters have actually watched all those movies, like just
Yeah.
like me, and they're gonna make smarter decisions. Not necessarily every time, but it's like at least they're on the same page.
As I was watching it, Jamie Kennedy is your spirit animal. Like if you were in Scream, you would be Jamie Kennedy.
I would be. This is my thing. He's every single movie. It's like that's one of the things that I love the most about it is that every movie the rules are slightly different because this is a different kind of horror movie now.
Hmm.
But starting with the first, here's the classic horror movie rules that everybody should fucking know. And I would be the person to lecture. Hopefully not the person screaming at the TV to turn around and then there's really a killer behind me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be at a party in this scenario. I think I'd be out of town. I'd have left.
That was another really effective thing was the tape delay and how they
Yeah.
used that to like be
Mhm.
watching, but like they were behind and they knew it. I
Yeah.
thought that was really good.
Yeah. I think what you'll come to like really appreciate about the Scream movies as you go along is that they understand kind of the things that are funny now looking back at the older ones in the franchise
Hmm.
and they'll like make jokes about themselves. And
Yeah.
like the weird lighting and like the 90s terrible hair and shit from like the original because of the stab movies that become like the thing with the whole Scream franchise starting I think in the second one.
The only thing that I didn't like was just some of the characters, mainly revolving around the first one is Dewey.
No, what? He's the heart of the movie. At
I
least in my opinion.
the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, there is no way this guy is allowed to have a gun.
Oh,
Like,
in a small town, 100% though. That's the thing is like small town, it's like volunteers. Whoever can fucking sign up, they want to be a police officer. Like it's a smaller fucking pool to choose from, you know. You can't be picky. And he is a junior, guy, but yeah, it's like
I would trust Dwight Schrute as a volunteer deputy
well,
than
obviously,
Dewey.
because that guy's been training his entire life. But that's what's the great thing about Dewey's character is that he learns and becomes stronger every movie. And he's the unlikely guy that survives all the time. He's really a staple of the franchise. I love him and Courtney Cox. I think their chemistry really makes those characters work.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that she's just taking advantage of him the entire movie.
Oh, her character?
Yeah, when she
Oh,
kisses him,
100%.
and like says she has feelings, I'm like, man, I don't believe that. You are evil.
See, but that's the thing is that her character also evolves, Jason. I'm excited for this journey that you're on because I understand where you're coming from. And if this was the only movie in the franchise, I would say valid. But I will say they grow with each movie, and it's cool for them because they liked each other on the first movie. They were sleeping together by the second movie, and then they were married and having the same trailer by the third movie. So it's just, and then they were divorced and separated by the fourth movie. So it really just all came full circle, but I love it. They've still continued to play the characters. It works.
Then the other two was our villains, Billy and Stuart. I mean, Matthew Lillard.
Stuart, it's just Stu. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the IMDb.
Yeah, but you should just know they never call him Stuart. It's Stu. Billy and Stu.
I don't watch these on a quarterly basis like you do.
Well, I'm just saying in the Scream community, we all know Billy and Stu.
Okay, not a part of that community. But love Matthew Lillard. He's hilarious in this movie. He is cranked up to 11.
Improving all over the place, and he's my favorite. Like, my one regret of this movie is that he did not make it. Like, the fact that he died, so I'm like, come on, man. Did you not see how great he was? I don't care as much about Billy. He looks like a serial killer from the first opening shot.
Billy, I had the biggest problem with because I'm just like, this guy is just doing a Hannibal Lecter impression the entire movie. And so then the reveal is just not that shocking. Like,
yeah,
the weird part was that he's just this totally creepy, intense guy the entire movie. And then when he reveals himself, he's that guy, but he has a little bit more charisma. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why didn't we flip this? Why didn't you have charisma and be likable the entire movie and then turn out to be cold and empty and dark? Like,
yeah, I think by the time we get to the before we get to the Scream 6, I think we should have a good talk about all the different reveals and like how it worked for each other, like based on like how the twist is, because there's always a twist. Yeah, they try to pull a twist. I will say I did not. The first time I saw it, I did not expect it because I was just like, I don't think it was the thing back then. There was always a separate killer chasing the kids. It was never one of the kids being the killer. So I loved that. Yeah. But now it's been done to fucking death. So like, and then you watch it, you're like, this is like a greasy Johnny Depp playing Hannibal Lecter. I know he's the killer from frame one. That's another reason why we love Randy, because he's like, are you kidding me? That guy's got killer written all over him. And you're like, yeah, for real. Randy's the smartest one here, man. But that's why I think the movies are great. They work so well because it is murder mystery for each one. If you think about it, just with the teen slasher, which is cool to combine the two.
Yeah, so I'm excited to watch the second one. I mean, this was a fun rewatch. It is very much like a time capsule movie.
Yeah, I mean, anything with some sort of technology is going to be like the fact that they know it's the boyfriend at first because he's like crawling in a window and his cell phone drops out of his pocket. They're like, nobody has a cell phone. It's got to be that guy. And you're like, okay, yeah, this is a whole nother world. Like young kids watching those, I'm sure it's not at all the same vibes, versus like, for me, I feel like with these movies, I remember them at the time, but I still appreciate them now. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you think of the rest of them, having no nostalgia like I do. I think you'll really enjoy the newer ones, personally.
I'm excited to just kind of go on this journey with fresh eyes. I don't even know anything going forward. Before we wrap, though, I just wanted to give shout out to Henry Winkler. Totally forgot that he was in this. I have to say, the sound editing for his death scene with the scissors, like every time they use him, it sounds like a sword is being drawn. Like
they're the sharpest scissors in the history of film, I think.
And it's like back to back, it's like shing, 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 shing.
And he's like, rivals like Quint getting eaten by the shark in Jaws, where it's just like, wow! He's so fucking intense. Like, I mean, he's fucking being stabbed to death. I would too. And then you get the weird shot of like close up of his eye. It's just like, it's great. It's good.
Well, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun little journey. Well, join us next week as we talk about Scream 2.
Oh, boy.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We out here.